Hello again and welcome back to Irons United's YouTube channel. Today we have had a massive announcement from our club, an announcement that we've known about for a long time. An announcement that was getting made when Bilic was still in his job was that David Moyes has been given the West Ham United's manager job for a 6-month temporary contract. Today we are joined by our familiar face, and that's Stelios. And to my left, you'll see someone new. So I'm just going to pass you over to Slaps. Slaps, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, my name's Slaps, short for Slaphead. It's a nickname I've had for years. Real name Michael, and some of you probably won't know me by that name. Long-suffering West Ham fan, and pleased to join the show.
Yeah, thanks very much, Slaps. Thanks for coming in. So let's just go right into this crazy rollercoaster of our world of West Ham. Stelios, David Moyes. Go for it. What's your opinion?
Well, I think like most West Ham fans, originally I was bemused by the fact that we were even linked with him. I didn't like it, but I just wonder if it may be exactly the sort of thing we may need now. We know his record in at Sunderland and over in Spain wasn't brilliant. But we've got to look back at the record that he had at Everton. He stabilised the team for 11 years, got them in the top 5, 6, whatever it was, on a regular basis.
I think it was, wasn't it? You got them into the Champions League.
And we talk about taking steps. And maybe this is the sort of manager we need. Maybe this is the sort of manager we need to take the next step. He's not everybody's. He's not on everyone's wish list because, you know, the board has promised us so much, and we were expecting, you know, an Ancelotti, this, that, and the other. But maybe this is the manager we need to get us to that next step. And then, if we start stabilising ourselves over the next few years, who knows?
Yeah. Slaps. Stelios mentioned there that it was when he was at Everton is something we need to remember. One point that came up last night when we done our show was that one of the guys pinpointed that was 7 years ago, and if you look at his record since he's left Everton, it's not been that great at all. In actual fact, his stats seem to come across worse than what Bilic's were at the time. So what's your opinion on Moyes, Slaps?
Well, same as Stel, he wouldn't be my first choice by any stretch of the imagination. And initially I was very anti against Moyes, and even considered not going to the matches anymore, although we always say that and we end up buying the season ticket again, so that's not going to happen. But now I've had time to think about it and digest it. To me, I think we've got to get behind him as a club and try and give us some stability. There's such anti-feeling over there at the ground at the moment, as we all know, and I think maybe this might be the guy that can pull us back together again. We've got to give him a chance.
Yeah.
If we get There's two David Moyes on there. There's the Preston and Everton David Moyes, and there's the Sunderland Real Sociedad David Moyes. If we get the Everton one, then I've got no doubt he'll keep us up. If we get the Sunderland one, then we ain't going to get many more points, and we're going to end up in a championship rather than the Champions League after 7 years that we were promised.
Yeah.
Or not promised maybe, but we were led to believe we would be competing for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to support him as I have every other West Ham manager. The board, though, is a different kettle of fish for me.
Yeah. Well, we'll come on to the board in a minute. There's been a lot of negative fans. If you're a social media follower, and I'm not saying everyone is, and maybe it could be a minority, but what we're looking at is a lot of people coming out saying that they're not a fan of the appointment, and some people are turning around saying they're not actually going to go across and watch the club. Stel, what's your opinion on the negativity towards the appointment?
It's totally understandable. You know, Slaps touched on it. We were promised a big dream. The whole thing about, you know, we've talked about this before, but it all goes back to it. We were promised, you know, we had to move from the bowling in order to move a step up, in order to get into the Champions League, in order to compete with the big boys, etc., etc., etc. And, you know, the 7-year dream that the board have promised has come to a grinding halt, and it's going backwards. You know, and I totally get why fans are really hacked off with it. I totally get why fans are looking at the board and going, here we go again. It's another cheap option. David Moyes is on the cheap. We're never going to get an Ancelotti. We're never going to get a Bielsa. We're never going to get a top manager that we've been promised, because West Ham aren't a viable proposition. Apparently, and I don't know again if it's true. We approached Ancelotti. We approached a couple of other top managers, and they've all turned us down. So it looks like again, Moyes is the third, fourth, fifth choice. It wasn't as if they went straight to him. I don't know. I don't know what goes on at the club, but you just hear the rumours. Now, if that's the case, I'm not surprised that no top manager wants to manage a team that's in the bottom three at the moment. Why would they risk their reputation to do that? So Moyes was the only option, the cheap option, whatever you want to say. So I get why fans are hacked off with it. I understand that.
Yeah.
But like Slaps said, if we get a David Moyes that was at Everton, it could actually turn out to be a bit of a blessing in disguise.
Slaps, do you see it as potentially we just needed a change, full stop, rather than David Moyes or a specific appointment? Because what was your little take on the Slaven Bilic situation, especially coming close to the end of his reign at the club?
Well, I think it was evident to a lot of us from last season that Slav wasn't really up to the job. Tactically, he was inept. And much as I love the guy because he understands the club, he's an ex-player, and he's a genuinely nice guy. Even now, when he's gone, the statement he's released is one that wishes us well, and he says he still loves the club and everything else. So I'm a bit sad that he has gone, but he wasn't up to the job. And when you look at him on the touchline against Liverpool, he was a broken man. And he was interviewed when he was in his car on the way out yesterday, and he was virtually in tears, the fella. And I feel really sorry for him. I really do, that's happened to him. And you could say it's down to his own inability to perform, but at the end of the day, you don't wish that on anybody.
No.
So, but we did need to change. We definitely needed to change, and I think that any change would be a good change, to be fair. But Moyes, I think we've got to get behind him and do what we can now.
Yeah.
We're with him. We haven't got a choice in it. The owners have given us him. It was quite clear someone was coming in quick when they got rid of all the back staff at the same time, because you don't do that unless someone says, I don't want those people. And the fact that Chris Wood stayed as well was a bit of a giveaway, because he's worked before with Moyes, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a giveaway. He was coming in that quick. Now we've got him. There's no point in moaning about it. Let's get behind the fella and try and do our best. The problem at the club is the board, and we all know that.
Yeah.
It's not Moyes, and Moyes has stepped in, and fair play to him. He's taken on the challenge, and it's a poison chalice. I think now it's much like the England job. Who would want to do it?
Yeah.
Who would want to deal with the board that we've got? Let's face it, they're Paul barons who have come along and taken over this club. They've got form for what they've done at Birmingham, and they're doing it to us again here. And a lot of clubs aren't going to want to deal with them. Then managers are going to be the same. What top manager is going to want to come and work for them? I don't see anybody being top. And as for whether they approached Ancelotti or Bielsa or anybody else, I think that's just them starting the rumour mill off and saying we approached these people. They would much like they did with these players, like, oh yeah, Lacazette, we couldn't get him. This player wouldn't come because he wanted Champions League. This player wouldn't come because that. It's all nonsense. That's just what they feed us. Yeah. They're just feeding us that. Yeah. They had Moyes identified us before they even sacked Bilic.
Of course they did.
He's got it now. Let's just crack on with it, and let's hope he can save us from the relegation. If he does, fair play to the fella.
Yeah. Still, do you see Moyes as being more of a yes man?
I don't know, mate.
Yeah.
He could be. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the January transfer window. Because I saw this Twitter thing earlier today, and I don't know if it was just a rumour or a fact that he's going to be given, money to spend in January. So let's see, because we know Sullivan likes to dabble into the transfer market. He likes to think he's a bit of a big shot, buying players or suggesting the players that he wants at the club. So that will be the telling point. If they allow him if they give him money, it means they trust him. If they allow him to buy the players that he wants, that means they trust him. and maybe he'll be given a free rein.
Yeah.
But if he's only there for 6 months, you know, if he's only there for 6 months, dependent on how well he does, and we don't know how well he's meant to do, then he could be an easy fix for the board. You know, they'll tell him what they want, and that's that. But I think the January transfer window will be a telling point.
Oh, absolutely. Slaps, there was a lot of stuff going on in social media again, or all over the press, and there's been stats released from like programs like Match of the Day and Sky Sports saying that we were probably one of the unfittest teams around in the Premier League, if not maybe the English league full stop. But there was a lot of kind of video footage put out today of David Moyes' training session. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this footage.
Yeah, I saw a snap of it.
Yeah, and to be fair, it could be social media showing you propaganda, what they want you to see, which is something I think they probably are doing. But it looks like he is going back to a little bit of basics and kind of challenging them again. And is that something I think historically is really well known for being a tactician stroke hard knocks training fitness guy in his sessions? Is that something you think he's going to bring to the game, and is that something you think we need?
Well, we definitely need to up our fitness levels, that's for sure, because we had players puffing and blowing on Saturday against Liverpool, according to my mates that I stand with at the game, and that's just not right. And you look at Reed when he was trying to get to Oxlade-Chamberlain, he was miles off the pace, and whether that's because he isn't fit or because they've rushed him back, or probably a combination of the two, it's evident that we need to have those fitness levels. And I think that Moyes is much better tactically and better at setting up a team than Bilic is, to be fair. Yeah. He's got history for it in the Premiership. He knows what the Premier League is all about. And I'll be very surprised if he doesn't go back to drilling that defence and getting the team to move up together and defend together, because that's what we need. At times we've had massive holes between defence and midfield and the forwards. I mean, teams have just played through us. And no disrespect to teams like Brighton and Huddersfield, but we shouldn't be having that done to us on our own pitch. We should be taking the game to those teams, and they should be struggling to survive with us. And that's what we need. And I think David Moyes will look at the home games and say to himself, these are games we've got to win to have any chance of staying up and getting the points that we need to get to stay up, which I think this year will probably be about 37 or 38, because the top teams seem to be accumulating a hell of a lot of points. But yeah, David Moyes, I think, tactically will give us a lot more about us than Bilic ever did, to be fair.
And I mean, I suppose here's another good question for you: is if 2.5 years ago the same situation had arisen and it was between Bilic and Moyes 2.5 to 3 years ago for the position, would we be saying David Moyes is the man, or would we be saying Slaven Bilic is the man? Because we all know. Wow. It's a good question, but if you think back to 2.5 years ago, he's just literally, or 3 years ago, he's just finishing his career at Manchester United. So he's been taken from his form at Everton. He's got a good form at Manchester United, just not to their standards. He becomes available. Do we take Moyes or Bilic?
Well, back then my decision would have been whether I go with my heart or my head. My heart would have been Bilic, because he knows West Ham, and I don't particularly like Moyes. And his team, Everton, who are a bogey team for us, and weren't particularly great to look at times, although other times they had flair players like Morales and players like that, Lukaku, people like that, then where you think to yourself, they weren't a bad side. So I think my heart would have said I'd go for Bilic, but my head and my business head and my West Ham head would eventually have said no, go for Moyes, because nobody's going to succeed at Man United after Ferguson, are they? How do you do that?
Listen, I read a comment, an interesting article today by saying when Alex Ferguson announced that we've chosen the man, we want you to back him, and then they brought Moyes in, and then Alex Ferguson was sitting up in the stands watching him every single game. Like, what pressure are you under when you've got that? So fair play, like that's tough, but yeah.
But that also says to you as well that Moyes has the confidence in his own ability, because you wouldn't take that job, would you? I mean, if someone said to any one of us, would you like to succeed Alex Ferguson at Man United, you'd probably think, Jesus. So I don't know if I really do, because I can only see one thing happening there, and that is I'm not going to live up to it. And even if I do, they'll say it was down to him anyway. So fair play to him. He took that job at Man United, and now he's taken a job with us. And when you look at the interview with Moyes, he said he had opportunities to join other clubs before, but he wanted a club that was a big club with a massive fan base, and we have got a massive fan base. We fill the Stelios Bowl every week, and he wanted a team that he thought would go places, and that's why he's come to us. And he's saying the right things. I don't think he'll be a yes man for the board, because being a sweaty sock, he's going to have his own mind and be quite opinionated. Sorry, all you Scottish people out there.
Jockneys.
And I think if you're going to do a job, if you're going to fail after 6 months, you might as well at least fail on your own terms.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to come in. One thing I would like to know is who does actually buy the players for West Ham.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a great question, Slaps, and something we covered last night. I mean, for me personally, if you look and the board previously, and I still think they are very active on social media, but they were advertising a lot of the players before the club were, because the players were in the owner's house. Now, negotiations usually take place in the club or the training ground, and you always have a reveal picture in certain places. But when you look at players and think back to Zaza, you see him in David Sullivan's, big master room he's got with all his fancy, expensive bits and bobs he's got behind him, and then there's a picture of him and Zaza posing without the manager present. And yeah, no, I get that. I get he's a money man. I fully am aware of that. But that's not what I want to see. I don't think I want to see my owner with the players. I want to see the manager with the players.
Absolutely.
Well, I think Sullivan looks at it that it's his money, so he'll spend it how he wants, and he wants to make sure it's spent wisely.
Yeah.
Retrospectively, I probably think he probably looks back at that and thinks, bloody hell, I shouldn't have bought Zaza, or I shouldn't have bought this player, I shouldn't have bought that player. But if he is buying the players and the manager isn't, the manager's not going to be tempted to work with those players.
Of course he's not.
Well,
and there's your problem.
And there's an issue here, I didn't want to talk about this, but I'm going to now. Is about Sullivan bringing in Hart, and that was a Sullivan loan purchase, and that was enforced on Bilic, and that's rocked. I think that caused problems for Bilic, caused problems for the team, and Bilic had to do what he was told and play hard. When he had, it's a matter of opinion. I'm an Adrian fan. He's pissed Adrian off. He's probably disrupted the defence because they got a new keeper. Hart doesn't talk a lot to his players, and when during a game, and that was a Sullivan thing. Sullivan brought Hart in. Sullivan, I can't remember Bilic ever saying, he may have been looking for a keeper, but I don't think he expected to get England's number one in, and that was a Sullivan thing. So that's why I said earlier it's going to be interesting to see what happens in January. Will Moyes have a free hand to go out and get? We certainly need a couple of defenders. Will he be allowed to go out and get a couple of defenders?
Well,
to tighten up that defence.
That's a great question, still. I mean, at the end of the day, if he's on a 6-month contract, and I suppose I'll throw this back over to yourself, Slaps. He's been given a 6-month contract. I don't know if that's just he's actually got the 2.5-year contract, and they're just telling the fans this, because I honestly believe they would just tell the fans anything to, as you're all aware, with all the players they've linked us to and all the managers they've linked us to. Are they going to back him in the transfer window on a 6-month contract? And if they are going to back him, are they going to do it the way they've been doing it, 1 in, 1 out, or 1 in, or what is it, 1 out, no 1 in policy? I
don't see any reason why their transfer policy is going to change, to be fair. Whoever buys the players will continue to buy the players. They say that they identify players, but the manager has the final say. I can understand that might well happen, because Bilic has turned around and said that he didn't want various players when we've gone to buy them, and he said no, I didn't want him. So fair play, he probably does have the final say. But then it depends what players they identify and who they are. I can't see them giving him a massive war chest to go out and buy players in January, because if he leaves after 6 months, then they've wasted their money, and also the players they've bought might well join. But then you've got the problem as well. If you get a player that you're trying to sign and he knows the manager's only on there for 6 months and might be gone, is that player going to want to join?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So no fear. My view is I think they should have taken him on and said to him, right, you've got a 2-year contract or whatever. If you're going to take him as manager, go for it and go with your choice and support your choice. The managers we've had have all been taken on since Zola. We've taken on Avram, who was a failure. We took on It was a good way of identifying Allardyce, because we needed someone to get us out of the Championship, and he did it first time, albeit through the Championship when he should have won the league. But he got us back up, and that's no mean feat in this day and age. He kept us up as well, so he was effective. He did what it says on the tin, did the job expected of him. But then he turned against the fans, did all the cupping at Hull when we beat them 2-1, lost the respect to the fans. That's why he had to go, and he wasn't renewed. Then they brought on Bilic, and we all know how that ended. So these managers are all being picked by our owners. So are they really showing the ambition we would expect of them? I don't know.
I think that's a great question, Slaps. That's a great question.
What they've been saying with players and with managers is, we're an ambitious club. We want to do Champions League in 7 years. We want to buy world-class players. The board are giving us that expectation, so but then they're not producing. They're over-promising and under-providing, and that's no good.
The final question on Moyes before we enter the world of the one I think we all want to get onto, which is the board, is something that I've had a problem with is, can the players that we've brought in, can they be managed because of their egos? I feel personally that Bilic may have struggled with some of those egos, such as Arnautovic, such as Ayew, because they are the marquee signing, which is the standard below the expected, and they all are expecting to play. So is Moyes going to come in and change that? What is the question to you, Stella, is can Moyes change it, and is he what style of management is he going to do?
I think he doesn't owe them anything, whereas I think Bilic felt a sense of, like, you know, he owed the players something, and I think he tried to go. I think what Bilic used to do is he tried to be pally with everyone, and when he fell out, he really fell out with players, you know, and that happened quite a few times in the 2.5 seasons he was there. You know, one minute you had a player, you heard a rumour that he'd fallen out with Bilic, and that was it. The player had gone. So with Bilic, it seemed to be you're my mate or you're out the door. Whereas I think with Moyes ain't going to care. Moyes is going to probably treat everyone at the same level. He's going to pick. He's probably already identified a couple of players that he thinks are going to be the base of the club, of the team, like Reed and so on. But I don't think he's going to give people like Arnautovic a lot of grace. He comes across as a tougher manager, you know, when it comes to man-managing, and I think Arnautovic is going to be looking over his shoulder, because you know, if Moyes is anything to go by, you know, with you know, if he brings in a few young players from the under-23s, etc., people like Arnautovic are going to have to look over their shoulders. So I think he'll be tougher. Which is something
still we've been crying for ages, is to bring that youth through, to challenge the players that are in the current team.
Absolutely. Yeah. Martinez was training today. I mean, Bilic only 2 weeks ago said Martinez is doing well, but he's not, you know, good enough. And first day.
Yeah, well, what a boost that. Do you know what? It is his first day, we don't know, but just hearing that news of Martinez being promoted to the first team training is enough to give the fans something to hope for, something to cling on to go, do you know what? Maybe they are looking at players like that, and that's the motivation that we need.
If he's not careful, we'll come to like him.
He's not even in the job, 15, 16 hours? Yeah.
Well, I think Moyes is going to be a disciplinarian. I think that again, with the sweaty sock type manager, without pigeonholing them, I think they are disciplinarians, and I don't think he's going to take any nonsense from them. He's managed a big club like Manchester United, and Everton are probably the same size of us, although they've won more in their history, to be fair. Although we did win the World Cup, so I got it. But I think that they're going to understand, and they're going to know that this guy's going to come in and he's going to mean business. If he comes in and means business, he's going to upset a few people's egos there. People like Arnautovic, I like Arnautovic personally. He has got a bit of a strop about him, but all good players, all top players, have got that arrogance about them, and he's got that arrogance about him. But he can play. When he played us last year, he ripped us apart in that game, and I think that if you get Arnautovic playing and you say to him, listen, lad, you're going to be one of our top players, you get him on side, he'll be a good player for us. Yeah. But I think that Moyes has been clever. He's brought Martinez, and I think it was Holland and Trott up from the younger team today to train with us, which could be just making up the numbers because we've got a lot on international duty. But irrespective of that, Martinez tweeted today it's good to be back in the fold, which is a great sign, because he knows now scoring 24 goals in 23 games has got him noticed by the new manager. He thinks, you know what, there could be an opportunity for me here. And I think Moyes is going to be just what we need with that team. I think he'll put that defence together. That defence wasn't easy to score against when we had it with Sam.
True.
You know, it's essentially the same players. The only difference is Zabaleta. Although I don't rate Zabaleta as much as a lot of people saying about captain and that. But that's the next interesting thing. Who's he going to have as captain?
That is
you can't no captainship and guarantee him a place.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about Noble again?
I think
no,
we should. Yeah, I think.
But that is an interesting question. Who's going to be captain, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that is a good question.
I think it's possible that Noble won't play as much, and so you're going to be looking at Reed, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, if Reed stays fit.
I think that Moyes is coming in. It's got to be his team, and I think that's the biggest thing. Now, if you look back on history, you look at when he left Everton, he went to Manchester United. He generated a team that was a legacy from Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson knew what was going to happen at Manchester United. There's no ifs or buts about it. He knew that players were not going to perform when they did. He knew it was the right time to leave and hopefully and give that job to someone else. He left Manchester United with decent record. He went to Sociedad, and if you listen to his interview today, he said he wanted to go away abroad and learn the game. He chose Sociedad, which we would associate with. We don't really know too much about them. And to be fair, yeah, he's a football coach. He probably won't know too much about them. He won't know much about that game. So he's gone over there, given it a shot. It's not worked out. He's gone to Sunderland probably because he's wanting to stay in the job. Because he says today he just wants to be in management. He said that, I just want to be in management. And he admitted today that even though he had a bad feeling about the Sunderland job, which I thought was a massive statement to make, and the Sunderland fans must be really pissed off about it. But he knew. He said he knew from day one, and he wasn't. When he was in the job, he wasn't happy. And when he took this job, he had to take it based. Now this could be propaganda, him telling us what we want to hear, but he took this job based on the fact that we're West Ham, we've got the history, and he wants to come in and be given that chance. And the impression I got from the interview today was, this is going to be my team, and I'm coming in to do what I've been told to do, and I'm hoping he does.
What bigger way to make a statement than to come into the club and then change the captain and put it all together?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great chance for him, and I think what we will be disheartened with is if we turn up to Watford with the same starting 11 that's been playing the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, but even if we do turn up with the same starting 11, they'll probably be better organised. You know, that's the thing. Because let's be honest. You know, let's be honest. We don't have that many bad players. I mean, we don't really. I mean, we've got players that haven't been playing well enough. We've got people. You know, we've got Mark Noble who really, you know, should only be sub and things like that. But on the whole, the squad isn't a bad squad. You know, we've all said it. We've all said that on the whole, it's a pretty good squad. So it just needs some organising. You know, so even if he did put the first, 11 on that played even in the last game, would that be such a bad thing if they're just better organised? You know, and Slaps is right. He's a disciplinarian. He's going to change it around. He's going to tighten up the defence. You know, and I reckon what he'll do is he'll freshen it up when he needs to. So when he needs to bring a Martinez on or someone like Holland to have a bit of pace down the wing and stuff like that, he won't be afraid to do so. What worried me about Bilic was he kept saying, you know, my senior players are going to get us out of this, but the senior players weren't playing, you know,
absolutely.
and that was into the mess. Absolutely, and that was Bilic's downfall in a way, that you know, he relied too much on the same players that he thought were going to pull him out of this hole, and all they kept doing was digging it deeper. You know, so yeah, you guys are right. He's going to make the team his own. He's going to freshen it up. He's going to give one or two players a little bit of a shake up. Yeah. You know, they're going to because I think there's a few of them that think, you know, I'm going to get picked, aren't I? There's no two doubts about it.
It's like a playground game of football.
Yeah. Yeah. The best player always gets first.
Yeah, well, one of Bilic's biggest mistakes, I think, was trying to be pals with everybody.
Yeah.
When you're manager, you've got to have that. You've got to have that line that the player knows, I ain't going to cross that line, because you know. And I don't think they had that with Bilic. With Moyes, I think it's a whole different ball game, and I think that divide will be there.
I mean, we're going to move on from Moyes just now, but the impression I get is, and it's probably the common statement, he's not our first choice. He's probably not the second choice. He's not the board's third choice. He's not our fourth choice. But when has our first choice ever been put into position? We are West Ham, and this is what we know. And this takes us on nicely to our board, our men in charge up the top, who we seem to really like not, and want to have a different view of it. So I'm going to put us under a little bit of pressure here, and I'm going to start with you, Slaps. I'm going to give you a time limit. I'm going to let you rant, and I want you to get everything out in that 2 minutes.
Oh, you're going to regret this.
Yeah, 2 minutes, and I've got my stopwatch there. So, and I'm only conscious of the time, so that's why I'm giving us these 2 minutes. And if there's anything we want to pick up in that, we'll talk about it at the end, and then we'll close off the show. So we're going to go for 2 minutes, and I'm going to give you a timer. Are you okay with that, Slaps? Yeah.
Yep.
Right. 3, 2, 1. On you go.
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of the board whatsoever. They sold me a dream, and I must admit I was gullible or a mug or whatever you want to say, and I fell for that dream. And they haven't lived up to it one little bit, to be quite honest with you. They've lied about virtually everything they said they would happen, from the proximity of the seats to the pitch, to the colour of the seats, to all manner of things they've lied about. I don't really want to go all over that, but my view is that just tell the truth to people. Do you know what I mean? Don't bullshit them and blag, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Don't say what you're going to do. Go out and do it. And they sold us this dream. They have created all the tension that's in the club at the moment, even down to the point of us expecting Ancelotti as a manager rather than David Moyes. They said they've got a 7-year plan. They said we're getting to the Champions League. They said we're going to buy world-class players. They said we're going to be a top club. They said we're aiming for top 6. And their expectations were passed over to us as the fans. We're not moaning at them and saying, we wanted that and you ain't produced it, or we want this, you can't do it, or whatever. They not promised, but they led us to believe that that's what their plan was and they were going to produce. They haven't. So if it was possible for the board to sack himself, I'd love to see it. But they can't, so we're stuck with them. I ain't going to support them. I don't like them. I tweet David Gold as often as I can to tell him what an arsehole he is. And he probably thinks to himself, not him again, for Christ's sake. And I'm surprised he hasn't even blocked me yet, to be quite frankly. no, Lady Brady has.
20 seconds, Slaps. 20 seconds. Yeah, 20 seconds.
I'm not a fan of them. I've got to put up with them. But I'll tell you what, this much, I will support Moyes as much as I can, as I have every other West Ham manager. The board, I ain't going to support them. I want them out. End of.
Well, wow. I've written some notes down because I want to ask you a couple of questions there, Slaps, at the end.
Go on then, by the way.
Stel, are you ready? Have you got 2 minutes in
yeah. Yeah, I think Slaps said it all, but I'll give it a shot.
Right, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, on you go, mate.
Okay, well, I mean, what can I add that Slaps hasn't already said? You know, I think the biggest thing is the move from the Bow Lane. Is probably the biggest disappointment that they've made to the fans. You know, the explanation that they gave, that, you know, we've got to move in order to keep up, in order to progress, in order to attract better players, in order to attract better managers, etc., etc. They're, you know, they're liars. They do everything on a shoestring. They do everything you know, I've said this many times before on Facebook. They're two Bob Del boys. They're second-rate Del boys. You know, they just always promise and give you that hope, as Slaps has said, that hope of, this is it, lads. We're going to move stadium because we've got to do this, we've got to do that. They did it in order to get more money in their pockets. It's as simple as that. They didn't have to pay. You know, they could have extended the Bow Lane. We could have extended that Bow Lane to what? 45,000, something like that. But it would have cost them too much money to do so. Why extend the Bow Lane, paying out of your own pocket, if you've got a stadium down the road that's going to cost you £2 million a year? I mean, you know, I know they're businessmen, and we don't deny them that they're running a business. We don't mind that. But it's as Slap said, it's the lies that have gone with it, you know, to give us that belief. When we moved stadium, I remember the last season, people were saying, oh, it's not good, I'm going to hate it, blah, blah, blah. And I remember saying, yeah, but, you know, it's progress, because I bloody well bought into it, you know. But, you know, 2 seasons down the line, we're nowhere near the target that they suggested we will ever get to. And I think that's the biggest shame with the board. You know, they've taken us for
10
mugs.
seconds to go.
They've taken us for mugs.
Yeah.
They've taken us for mugs.
It's probably the best way to round it up. I'm going to try my best and bring this down to a minute somehow, because I feel like I just don't have the energy in me to give what I really want to give, but I'll try. So 3, 2, 1. The biggest thing that gets me the most is the comment that David Sullivan made the day after the last game at Upton Park, when that amazing win, and he was live on Sky Sports, and he said, "This is us now. This is the progression we're going to make. This is what we're going to do." And the little yellow banner went across, and it says, "West Ham have bid crazy money for a marquee signing." Keep your mouth shut, because you've given us these promises, and that's the biggest problem the fans have got. If you don't open that, then we will probably be satisfied with some of the things that have been going on. The fact that you're opening your mouth and thinking we're mugs, which we're not, and we understand how business runs, you're feeding us all the crap. I'm just jumping into what you guys are saying. It's just too much crap for us to take anymore. So yes, you're businessmen. Yes, we don't deny you that, being a businessman. But when you rip up our home and take us away from that and open up something else, because I was a canvasser for the board and I was a canvasser for the move, like you guys were, and in actual fact I was a canvasser up until maybe 6 or 7 months ago, which something just clicked out of the blue, and I was like, my God, what have they done to us? Like, look what they're doing. False promises left, right and centre, false promises with managers. I honestly believe they have thrown Slaven Bilic under the bus. I honestly believe whoever manages us, they're going to do exactly the same. I really hope they're not, and I am going to back Moyes to the guns, and I hope he proves everyone wrong, because I'm a West Ham fan, as we all are. But at the end of the day, these guys up top have let their love for football disappear, because the money is raining in on top of them, because the stuff they do is solely based around money now. They don't have the love for the club. I've gone 30 seconds over, but that's my opinion of the board.
I'm brave.
Yeah. So is there any kind of points you want to pick up on there, any of you guys, from what we've all said?
I think we've covered everything that needs to be said about it. We all bought into I feel a particular mug, because I've been a fan and going over there for so long. I feel a particular mug to have bought into what they said, but that's the way it is. You know, these sort of things happen, but you know, we're stuck with them for the moment, so we just have to make the best we can of it. Yeah. That's it. You know, I just hope Moyes makes a success.
The interesting thing with the board is, if they were smart, you know, they could have invested money in, you know, the whole thing about being a businessman is you invest to make more money. And if they invested good money, you know, bringing in decent players, bringing in a decent manager, etc., we could have been at the Champions League stage right now. And how much would West Ham really be worth if we were doing Champions League? Then they could turn around and go, right, we're selling you and we're making a vast profit. But because they act in the way that they act, they don't, you know, they're cheap. You know, they make the club cheap. You know,
two games away from the Champions League if they had progressed and won those games the last season at Upton Park. 2 games away from the Champions League, and like some of the guys have mentioned previously, we had a chance to gain the momentum when you've got quality players in our squad.
Absolutely.
Then you go and you build upon that, and like you said, Stel, it's so important that when you bring in the quality player, the fan will go into that shop and they'll buy the merchandise and they'll keep buying more, and they'll buy more and they'll buy more and they'll buy more, and then you buy a player of Hernandez quality and you'll get the attention of Mexico and South America getting involved with with West Ham, and then you do the exact same around. Like, look at Manchester United. They've kept Zlatan Ibrahimovic, not just for 2 reasons: for the fact that he's a great player, but for the second reason is he's
retail.
He's retail.
He's retail. Yeah. And that's the problem with the board. They talk big. You know, there's the old saying, you know, champagne ideas, lemonade money. You know, they talk big. They give it all the large, but the delivery, they don't back it. They don't back it with real money. You know,
well, they just let off the interest they charge the club, so that's fine, isn't it?
Well, we still owe them 60 mil, don't we? 50 mil, something like that. They ain't gonna care, are they? And they don't care.
No. Right, Slaps. Any last points you want to make?
No, I just hope that we stay up and Moyes does what he needs to do.
I think my last point.
How it happens.
Yeah, I think the last point I want to make is, how disappointing is it to be into our second season at the new stadium after all the promises, and now we're getting a manager to keep us up and try and get safety again. Like, that's the part that's the most frustrating part for me. If everyone had shut up, or the board had shut up, we would just be used to it. So we'd be West Ham fans. Absolutely. Just going about life as normal, going to the London Stadium, going another relegation battle, and let's just try and beat the odd team here there, and let's try and get a cup run. But just those promises. So
Promises.
Yeah. Stelios, thanks very much for coming on. Slaps, thank you for coming on. 100%. Please come back onto the show. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you follow our partners in Umbro, and keep an eye out on Stelios's Facebook page, the WHU Ticket Group. We'll put some stuff in the descriptions below. So thanks, guys.
Cheers.